Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Abe with MysticGenMara.com, a small town mystic from the middle of Idaho. And tonight is our series called Myth and Tarot. And we're going to look at a very interesting creature from mythology. One that has been brought back to life, so to speak, in recent years. And that is the Hippogriff. So the Hippogriff is a creature actually originating from Greek mythology. The front half of this particular creature is an eagle, and the back half is that of a horse. The lore originally states that this creature was born from a mare, a female horse, and a griffin. So the eagle genes tended to take dominance in this one. And for those of you who, this is a pretty well-known version of the Hippogriff. It's Buckbeak from the Harry Potter series. But this is where the origin comes from. She was using an old legend / lore for her story. The legend says originally that the Hippogriff was extremely fast. Even in those times, it was said to be able to fly to the moon and back in a single evening, or circle the world in the same time frame. So they weren't exactly slow if they could move that quickly. But you've got, the speed of a horse plus the speed of an eagle, and to the ancient Greeks, that meant, what we would call today hyperspeed. So, the Hippogriff in lore is said to be ridden, however you want to say it, by magicians and wizards primarily. Fits really well into the Harry Potter series. Those magic users always had the coolest rides, brooms, however, but they always, or even flying carpets, they always had the cool stuff. There were some other stories from the Greek myths about heroes and knights that rode hippogriffs to rescue the fair maidens. Even back in the day, they loved a good rescue story. There's one story that I found amusing that says the hippogriff was used to find another person's wits. And I had to double check it, but it literally was someone had lost their ability to think logically and comprehensively, and so this searcher gets on a hippogriff, and the hippogriff was able to find this person's sanity, so to speak. So this thing must be great at hide and seek if it can literally help you find your sanity and your wits. That one I think was probably the most entertaining story as I was rooting around trying to dig up information on the hippogriffs. And as as happens with the British, the hippogriff appears on many of the coat of arms for important families, just like the griffin and dragons and etc. Although there is a little debate on the hippogriff for the coat of arms. They're not really sure why it was introduced in the first place. No one can pinpoint an exact reason for it. The gentleman by the name of Arthur Charles Fox Davies said the images were crude and left one feeling disappointed. I'm paraphrasing. It was a paragraph like that long, and that was the sum of it, was he thought they were really inappropriate to have on a coat of arms. Others said that the hippogriff was never or not to be used in British heraldry. You can decide. I really don't see the problem personally with them being included. I've seen some images that do have them there. I guess you could probably substitute it out for saying it was a griffin, but you can decide. There are authors out there, namely one gentleman by the name of Thomas Bulfinch, that think the hippogriff was a demonic creature. This was actually a fairly common theme for a period of time. Sorry. And it was the reason that they thought this, and really when we look at some of the weird things that they used to believe, you're going to blame a hippogriff, a half eagle, half horse, and call it demonic. They said it was the perverse joining of animal souls with absolutely no benefits to the natural world. Okay, calm down, demon hunters. It's just an animal. According to according to a Spanish historian, hippogriffs lived in the country of France, near the county of Rosalyn. The proof for this theory, you're going to love this, because I kind of giggled when I was doing this digging. The proof, there were claw marks in rocks on a hillside. Therefore, hippogriffs. Care to fill me in on what part I missed there? Because something's missing. No feathers, no random weird horsetails, just some claw marks on a rock. The debate raged on, stating that they could not exist, debate whether they were real or just figment of someone's imagination. The debate raged on, stating that they could not exist as they go against nature and the order of God himself. These creatures are not divine, and according to these very learned men, could never have existed. Okay, they're starting to find out a lot more stuff used to live than what we realize, so possibly? Oh, come on now. In reality, though, where's your sense of adventure? At least think outside the box. The box is kind of boring. The debunkers, on the other hand, cite that the Book of Enoch states that there were creatures could exist, not naturally. There we go. It is said in the Book of Enoch, and I have read the Book of Enoch by C.H. Charles, I believe. R.H. Charles, sorry. And he does reference this in there. A complete text is a little harder to find. They do exist, but whether or not they're actual genuine or not is the question. But in the Book of Enoch, it is said that Satan and his fallen angels were great at perverting God's creations by making monsters, and that Satan himself was a master geneticist. So these men state that if the hippogriff did exist, it would be one of these bastardized creatures outside of God's grace. Again, settle down, Cupcake. There's a lot of things in the world that we didn't understand even 50 years ago. So, if something like this existed, cool, let it go. But there was a lot of controversy with the hippogriffs, and I didn't realize how deep that controversy went until I started really focusing on them as possible living creatures, not just as spirit creatures. But in the end, as tends to be the case, the joke's on those guys, the deniers, because the traditions that are out there say the hippogriff, and I loved this, represents the dual nature of Jesus the Christ, both human, earthly, and God, divine or of air. Therefore, the hippogriff would be considered a Christian symbol, thus justifying its use in British heraldry, even amongst the naysayers who said that it shouldn't be there. So, there we go. The hippogriff can also be seen as a symbol of love and of peace, holding the duality holding to the duality of its nature, its parents being mortal enemies after all, one in one body and in peace, shows that love can conquer everything and can reign in almost all situations. In the Greek legends, the hippogriff is also seen as a symbol of the god Apollo. Little fertility magic going on there too, so in pop culture, because heaven forbid we leave things in with the Greeks, which is cool that we actually go back and look at the historical stuff and drag it forward, because there are some awesome myths back there, and you don't usually hear much about them unless you purposely go digging. So I should try to sleep at night at some point. In pop culture, though, the Hippogriff shows up in a lot of different places. The fantasy role-playing games, such as Dungeons and Dragons, of course, would have their version of the Mighty Beast, and I think, this is one of the images that I found when I searched D&D Griffin. It's a pretty cool image, and you can even see right there the clawed foot, because the front claw, paws, arms, whatever, were actually eagle talons, whereas the back were still the feet or the legs of a horse. So you have that really cool blending of creatures there. Warhammer, the board game, has them, and of course, as I said before, Buckbeak, the Hippogriff from the Harry Potter series in The Prisoner of Azkaban. It makes an interesting little appearance there. There is even, and I didn't realize this because I used to be interested in this particular game, not so much anymore, but the game Digimon has a Hippogriff styled into their game as well. It is kind of fascinating in one aspect. Where am I at here? It's kind of fascinating in one aspect, though, because the Hippogriffs, one of the origin stories, supposedly, was that the Hippogriff was a joke, as in, oh, yes, that would ever happen, like a griffin and a horse, basically saying it was an impossibility. The Hippogriff, in some of the older stories, was an impossibility that nature would never allow. But that impossibility from a random, yeah, whatever type of a thing actually grew into a very strong belief that put the Hippogriff up there with the Griffin, the Pegasus, and in some instances, not all, on the same level as a unicorn, although its soul, spirit, however you wish to see that, was not as powerful. So there was a lot of interesting lore that I found digging around with these guys, but not as much as I thought. I mean, they're around in a lot of different places, so I figured that there'd be a lot of information. No, I ran across a pile of different D&D ability charts or Warhammer references type stuff, or the Digimon types, not so much character sheets, but that type of thing. So there is a lot of information, but a lot of it's more modern, so I didn't go into all of that. Being a creature that very well could exist in mythology, meaning the spirit world as a spirit guide or animal, you can also work with the Hippogriff in the energy field of air and earth. So the duality, the union of opposites, because air and earth are the opposites on the elemental charts, fire and water are opposites, earth and air are opposites. So the Hippogriff carries both air and water, or air and earth. So the union of that shows that there's also a little bit of alchemy, because the union of opposites is what opens the gateway to the Philosopher's Stone, the elixir of life, all the goodies on the other side. It's how to bring those elements into balance. The Hippogriff is a symbol, and this is not alchemical symbol, because in my research, I couldn't find that he pops up in alchemy symbols. But in my opinion, we'll put it that way, in my opinion, any creature that carries opposite energies, earth and air, or fire and water, in one being, is a gateway to understanding the alchemical processes. So when looked at that way, the Hippogriff can actually be considered a very strong symbol of that duality, that union of opposites, And in that respect, it's also how to look at ourselves. I'll get to the tarot just a second, but when we look at ourselves, we see this meat suit thing. But that's only part of who we are. We have a soul. We have a mind that lives in here. The soul is what powers the machine, the ghost in the shell, so to speak. And if you go through like Carl Jung, we have, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, a higher self and a shadow self and the middle self, the conscious self. We have a subconscious mind and a conscious mind. In most instances, these things stay completely separate from each other. Your conscious mind and your subconscious mind normally are not active at the same point, not where you're aware of it. Your higher self and your shadow, as a rule, don't talk to each other. But as people who are on spiritual journeys, it is our job, our goal, our task, to find a way to open the gateway so that our shadow and our higher self can see each other. We have to be the conduit for that. We're the hippogriff, so to speak. Because the shadow, if it's left in darkness, will continue to trip you up. Whereas bringing in that light from the higher self allows it to be seen. Your shadow holds all the things you don't want to talk about, all the things that you're trying to hide, all the things you want to repress. By shoving them back, it can cause all sorts of chaos to crop up in your life. And in some instances, become a physical manifestation of illness, of mental problems, of chaos in your physical world. But when you bring that light into it, open that door, the union of opposites can occur, and your shadow doesn't become so scary anymore. You shine the light on it so you can see. That's why I do that. That's where that comes from. Okay. But you have to do it in the concept of love and understanding. Bringing in that peace and love aspect of the hippogriff. You're bringing these two things that normally would be polar opposites into a united state. And that's where the hippogriff can work in a spiritual community as something to meditate on, something to focus on. In meditation is, how can I understand this union of opposites? How can I bring earth and air into balance? How can I create the proper gateway for healing and growth? The hippogriff has a lot to offer us if we look at it from a spiritual standpoint, not just the kind of cool creature from Harry Potter or that wicked creature from the D&D games that gives you a little enhancement to your attacks. You can apply it to a spiritual training as well as something to help you understand the union of opposites, which in a lot of ways we want to forget, because I'm a light worker. Cool. I'm a starseed. Awesome. What about your shadow? What about the inner work? People don't want to talk about that. That's dirty. That's rough. It is. But if you don't have that union, you just kind of flail around. So, with that little tidbit there, we'll hop into the tarot. I read intuitively, so the messages that come through may or may not be the same that are by definition on the cards. This particular tarot deck is linked in the description below. It's the Tarot Art Nouveau. It can be a little risque, so if I have my finger completely covering an aspect, there's a reason for that. Have to edit it for the tubes. And I use the Celtic cross pattern, so this is just kind of a general one. And this is a reading as if a hippogriff was sitting in front of me, so we're reading for them. Again, this is for entertainment, but who knows what kind of information may come through. So if you hear something that resonates, then that's probably something you can pay attention to. Otherwise, we'll just hop right in here. The hippogriff in this reading is signified, meaning their card, is the Eight of Wands. There's a little bit of confusion. They're having this kind of existential crisis. That was a hard word to say all of a sudden. They want to grow up, but they also want to play. I mean, she's still chasing butterflies. So there's a little bit of that air aspect of flippancy, of kind of la-di-da, but there's that feeling of groundedness, and we're working with wand energy. So the wands are fire, so you have this passion that builds up there as well. Kind of fits into them being the symbol of Apollo. So you've got all these different elements. You've got the beautiful green symbolizing the earth element energy, the butterflies that they're catching symbolizing air, but being the Eight of Wands, this is the eternal passion, this eternal fire. So it's something that never ends. The Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail. This is an ongoing process for them, where they come into awareness again, then they fade into obscurity, then they come back into awareness and fade into obscurity. So they're kind of in a holding pattern at the moment. The things that are crossing them, any challenges at the moment, is the Five of Pentacles, and we have to edit here. And the Five of Pentacles there's some depression, there's some upsetness. They're not happy with how things are playing out right now. They want to improve their status. They want to step forward into the light of day. They want to be able to reconnect. And that's kind of a theme with several of these mythological creatures that I've gotten. And again, these are for fun readings, but it's almost like we forgot the magic in life, and that's what's upsetting them, is they feel like they've been forgotten. Harry Potter did an amazing thing by bringing them back into awareness, but that's the upswing of that 8 universal symbol on the Eight of Wands. So they're working towards that, but they still feel like there's not enough respect or not enough attention has been turned their way at this time. So their higher self, the higher influences here, it's the Five of Chalices. So there's some emotions that are coming up. They're very upset about things that have happened in the past. Obviously, there's some broken pottery. So things that have happened in the past kind of broke them. The part that's sad about that is the fact that there's so much more around them to be happy and grateful for. They're worried so much about this one thing that went wrong, and their higher self is really stepping in to say, why are you so concerned? That happened for creatures that are virtually immortal hundreds of years ago, and yet you're still carrying around this, well, yeah, but they said that we're evil. Get over it. No one else believes that anymore. I mean, there's probably a sect out there, but the majority of people don't see you as an evil being. Why are you still focused on that? And they're having a hard time letting go of that one, that they were told that they were demonic. I can kind of understand that to a certain extent, but that's their higher self. It's like, you're so focused on this one thing that happened several hundred years ago, but you're not catching the fact that people want to know who you are today. So their subconscious, their shadow self, if you will, is the Knight of Wands, again with the fire. So there's a lot of passion that they have repressed. Their shadow is driving this negative focus. And so there's this feeling that's coming up that's saying that their focus is so heavily on this one thing that happened that they're missing out on life. Their higher self is saying, quit focusing on that. But their shadow is like, full steam ahead, we're just going to stay on this. So, and it's tapped into their emotions. That's passion, that's fire. So they're having a hard time letting this go, even though their higher self is like, dude. So, in their immediate past, again, we're talking virtually immortal, so we'll go last 100 years, is the number 17, 17? Yeah, 17. Roman numerals are not my thing. But the stars, so their history is in the stars. They have a place not as exalted as the Griffins, but there is a belief in some circles that they were placed amongst the stars. I couldn't find an exact chart for them. I know there's probably one out there, but there is some lore to state that they were actually placed in the heavens amongst their sire, the Griffin, as a divine being, even though there's others that say that never happened, so who knows. But their history, their immediate past, is they've had some really amazing resurgence into the world. The stars have aligned for them to be brought back. And so their past, their last 100 years or so, have been really positive, even though their shadow is like, no one likes you, you're evil. That's not actually been playing out that way. The history for the last 100 years has been working very positive for the Hippogriffs. So their immediate future, going forward, we'll go with the next 100 years, is the magician. They have all the tools at their disposal. They have all of the things that they need to be able to move forward and be able to process, build, and expand on this dream and goal that they want to step more into the public spotlight. And their next 100 years, it's the new beginning. They're not the fool. They're not just starting out. They've been on a journey. And the magician is saying, you guys have everything available to you. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to use these gifts, these tools, these abilities to bring yourself back into awareness in a positive way and actually show yourselves as positive beings? So, their attitude, kind of their emotional state. This is a little bit different than where they're at in the moment, because that's an overall view. Their emotional state, their attitude, is the One of Wands. They're feeling like there's something new, obviously. There's something new coming up. And they are hopeful, because there's a little bit of hope in this card. It's, again, we're with the Wands, still working with a lot of fire energy. There's a little bit of hope. She's looking down, kind of like, please let this be true. Please let this be true. So it's a little bit of hope and a little bit of wish, but that's enough to start the ball rolling. So their attitude, even though their shadow is being a little bit of a twit, their attitude about things is there are some better parts in the future coming. It looks like there's going to be some more positive imagery coming forward. And from the art that I was seeing as I was looking just at random pictures, kind of getting a feel for how people are viewing them, people are really starting to see them in a more positive light as well. So the attitude that they have is hope. There's hope that people are going to start seeing them in a more positive light, and that's what they're focusing on. That's what their attitude is towards, is like they're cautiously optimistic about how things are going to go in the future. So their environment is the Emperor. So they actually have a lot of divine masculine energy kind of protecting them. The Emperor is more physical, not so much divine, but there's still a lot of that masculine energy, the positive aspects of it. And as they are symbols of Apollo, and they've been referenced as symbols of Jesus the Christ, they have a lot of support as long as they stay focused on the right things. Getting distracted by other, the more negative stuff's not going to benefit them. But their environment is really saying this is a prime opportunity and a prime time as a spiritual being or entity to step back into the limelight, to step back into the life that you choose to lead, the life that you have been wanting for so long, is to be back amongst the humans. For some strange reason, they like us, which is not normal for a lot of the Greek critters, but these guys in particular. And I like how J.K. Rowling displays them, is there's a respect that has to be earned. And that's cool, and that works into that Apollo. You didn't just march into Apollo's temple and act like a pursed jerk. Bad things happened. So there's a respect that has to be built, and that's the environment that they're working with, is they want to be able to interact with us again, but there's got to be that give and take, and they're ready. They're hoping. They're cautiously optimistic. So let's see what happens with their hopes and their fears, and then we'll see the outcome. Their hopes and fears is the Four of Swords. Again, there's that worry coming forward. They're worried that things are going to go bad, but there's a lot of green. There's a lot of growth that's available for them. There's this energy of, yeah, it may not be the best. I mean, she's looking frustrated, but there's a lot of vibrancy moving forward. We're working with their air energy, so it's the intellectual. They're overthinking things, and that's where the fear's coming in, is, oh no, what's going to happen? Oh, is this the right thing? Should we be doing this? Oh no. The overthinking part of air But the earth part aspect of them is like, dude, we're setting ourselves up. We have a foundation. People are actually wanting to know about us more. So they've got some things moving in their favor, even though their overthinking air energy is like, what's happening? So the overall outcome, the theme is the Two of Wands. Their outcome is saying that there's a little bit of coy curiosity going on here. You've got the blue, the soothing blue. It's a calm energy coming forward. You also have is that lavender? Iris, sorry. They're all, the flowers and the imagery here are really about positive things coming forward. Again with the wands, so we still have that fire, so there's that passion there, but it's a coy passion. Like, there's a lot of curiosity building from people wanting to know them. There's also the curiosity from them wanting to step into the world. So they're a little bit, the coyness comes from, do we do it or don't we? Are we ready for that connection back to the human world, or should we wait? There's a little bit of indecision, but the overall outcome from this is if they can conquer their shadow, their lower self, that part that's so hyper concerned about that thing that happened so many years ago, if they can get beyond that and use the tools at their disposal, their outcome is going to be very positive, very uplifting, and very growth oriented. So, the Hippogriffs look like they're doing pretty good here. There's not a lot going on. From what the cards show me, if they would just get out of their own way, they could make a return to the world. It's just they tend to overthink, which anything that's tied to air energy does have that problem. So with that, then we'll call this reading over. If you enjoyed this type of stream, please hit the like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Helps the channel grow. I did link some different products in the description down below that are all Hippogriff themed, and those are all links that if you click through those do help support the channel. They're affiliate links. So and comment, let me know what you think. I know the tarot readings are for fun, but let me know what your thoughts were if you were watching through that part. Any different ideas, images, things like that. So with that, I will let you guys go. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in a future video.